Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening for people who are on the East Coast. Thanks for joining in Rotary Club of Silicon Andhra, this webinar, The Power of Potential, brought to you by the vocational services of our club. We have a wonderful speaker today here. I want our chair, vocational services, Dushyant Paligaram Garu, to introduce the speaker today and get the seminar started. Thank you. Dushyant Garu, please. You are in mute, sir. You are on mute.
Thank you, Raj Garu. Hello all. Welcome to the Power of Potential webinar by Jackie DesChamps. Jackie is a very well-known speaker, and we are attending. This is second time from her. So this is like very inspiring. She will bring what kind of potential we have. So Jackie is having like 25 years, nearly 25 years of management experience in both public and private sectors. She has been recognized for her ability to inspire and engage workforce to increase productivity and reduce operational expenses. She is having exceptional leadership skills that have been credited with encouraging her staff to not only think out of the box, but to eliminate it. The result of creation of an engaged and high-performing workforce that strive to use their fullest potential to accomplish challenging and meaningful work. During today's presentation, Jackie will provide tools and techniques to tap into our potential to create an environment of engagement for workforce. She will also share new ideas and knowledge and spur innovative thinking that will result into workforce being passionate about their work and increase productivity. So without much ado, I would request Jackie to start the presentation. Maybe you can give a little more introduction about yourself, Jackie. The floor is yours.
Okay, well, thank you. That was quite a bit of the introduction, so I think we're good on the introduction piece. I want to just again thank you all for having me. Thank you, Srini, for extending the invitation, and I hope that something will be shared with you today where we will walk away learning new things and techniques that you can use. So, let's see. I've got, my screen just went to something else here.
Can you see the screen that I'm sharing? Jackie, I'm sharing your presentation.
I can.
Okay.
I can see that. Okay. So, but you will have control over it though. So, yes. So I'll have to tell you when to.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
I will be your helper today. That would be my potential.
All right. Okay. So one of the things, because I am a workforce strategist, one of the things I like to do is to, in my presentations or any meetings that I have, is to keep folks engaged because no one likes to be spoken directly to. I believe that the learning comes with an exchange. So today, what we're going to do, or what I will ask you to do throughout the presentation is to either write things in the chat and then at the end, or your questions in the chat, or however you all want to do the questions, we can do them then. But if you could hold those questions into the end, it would be great. But before we start, and I would ask that you mute your microphones, but don't mute them yet. Because before we start, next slide, please. So before we start, we are going to just do a small activity, a quick activity to get everybody engaged, and it's called Would You Rather? Now, Would You Rather is an activity where I will pose two question to you, and you'll have an option to select one of the choices, okay? Neither choice is all that great, but you must select one of those choices. So for example, I might ask the question, would you rather walk over hot coals or lie on a bed of nails? Now, neither one of those is fun, okay? But there's a method. I'll explain this method after we get done, but you must select one of those options. So as we get ready to go, I want everybody to unmute and then just shout out your answer, no particular order. I just want to hear everybody's voice, okay?
Can you repeat the question again? Can you repeat that question again, Jackie, please?
Oh, I will repeat the questions. In fact, you'll see the questions.
Okay.
Yeah, you will see the question as well.
Yes, you will see the question. All right, so next slide, please. So the first question is, would you rather be unable to use a touch screen or unable to use a keyboard and a mouse?
Touch screen.
Touch
Keyboard
screen.
and a mouse.
Touch screen.
Keyboard and a mouse.
A touch screen, unable to use a touch screen.
The touch, I'm hearing a lot of touch screens. Okay.
Touch
All
screen.
right.
Keyboard and mouse.
Okay, I hear keyboard and mouse. I'm hearing some touch screens. I think touch screen took that one. Okay, so there are no, oh, by the way, there are no wrong answers. There are no right answers. And all you get out of this are bragging rights. Okay, so so the next question, next slide, please. Would you rather suck on a dozen lemons or peel a dozen onions? Ooh.
Onion.
Peel it as an onion.
Onion.
Everybody said onions.
No, suck dozen lemons.
Oh, okay. We got one person ready to cover up and do those lemons. Okay. Okay, a couple of lemons. Okay, mostly onions. Wow. Ooh, that one's a tough one. All right, a couple more. Next slide, please. Would you rather type your annual report with 2 fingers or have to reboot your computer every 15 minutes?
Type
Annual report with 2 fingers.
2 fingers.
2 fingers.
2 fingers.
Everybody's 2 fingers? Well, it's going to take you a while. I hope that annual report's not due soon. Okay, it's gonna take you up. All right, and I believe we have the next one is our last question. Would you rather create a very successful app or go on tour with Beyonce?
Beyonce, please.
Beyonce.
Oh, Beyonce. Oh. Okay, so y'all want to hang out with the with Queen Bee. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, okay.
This is the easy one. This is the easy one.
Oh, that's the easy one. Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. So next slide, please. All right. So those questions were all asked in fun, but we as leaders, you face dilemmas every single day. And oftentimes you have to make a choice of something that you're really not so crazy about, but that might be the only option you have. And making those sorts of choices stretches you and makes you think different, think outside of the box, and think of different ways of accomplishing whatever it is you have in front of you. So dilemmas, although none of us really like them, actually do stretch us. And when we stretch, you are moving closer and closer and working within your potential. Next slide, please. All right, so if everyone would please mute, and I'm going to ask you to write in the chat. When you see these pictures, we have Elon Musk, we have Bill Gates, LeBron James, Oprah, and Katy Perry. When you see these people or hear their names, type in the chat if you would. What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear or you see these people? Okay, I'm seeing things like success, hard work, influencers, successful people, philanthropists. Yes, yes, famous. All of those responses are actually accurate. All of those things. All of these people are very well known. They may come from very different sectors, very different backgrounds, but they all have one thing in common that contributes to their success. And that is that they strive every day to be their best selves. It's not enough that LeBron can win one championship. He's not satisfied with one. He wants to do more on the court and off the court. Oprah wasn't just satisfied having her own show. She said, you know what? I think I can own and run a network. And I don't even want to think about all the things that Bill Gates has done to affect our lives and to do this. But these people, they're famous, yes, and they can go all over the world and people will know them by either their first name or what they look like. But you have something in common with them as well. And it may not be their billions. I don't know, maybe it is, I'm not sure. But if it isn't, the one thing that I'm for sure that all of you have in common is that you, just like them, have the ability to strive to be your best self. Now imagine if LeBron stayed in Cleveland, graduated from high school, and said, you know what, I'm just gonna work in a factory here. Or Oprah, when she took her first job in Baltimore as a broadcaster, said, you know, I'm just going to stay here in Baltimore and I'll just be a broadcaster and stay within this limited market. Or Bill Gates. And, you know, I don't even want to think about what my life or what our lives would be without Apple. So you see, they wanted to make an impact, not just for themselves, but on the world. And it's no different than you. You will make an impact on the world. And it may not be all over the world, but it will be your world. Okay, the people you impact, the communities that you serve. Next slide, please. So before we go on, let's define potential, because we're going to be talking about it for the next few moments. So the Merriam-Webster Dictionary says that potential is your unrealized state existing in possibility. Wonderful, wonderful definition, you know, and it's great and it does describe it. Next slide, please. But my definition, I like to keep things simple. I just say that potential is your untapped creativity, because that is what potential is all about. You thinking in a way, being creative, thinking of ways to do things, old things a new way, or new things that no one's ever done before. And potential, if you, next slide, please. And potential and creativity go hand in hand. So you're going to hear me talk about the two inexchangeably today. So if I'm talking about creativity, I'm talking about potential, and vice versa. So creativity is essential for any organization. So organization, just your organizations or any organization out there, and particularly for leaders. So I know today we're talking about you and striving for your potential, but as leaders within your organization, you're not just striving for yourself. You are striving for potential for your workforce. You want to display a behavior that you want your workforce to model. So I know some of you might be saying, well, you know, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Why are we talking about potential? And we're in the middle of a pandemic. We've got civil unrest. Some people have lost their jobs. My employees are stressed out. Why now? Okay, why think about doing things bigger and better? And the answer for that is, this is the best time to do it, because out of challenges, out of difficult times come inventions, come new ways of thinking and being and doing. And we're going to see a couple of examples of that. Next slide, please. And you might have to double click. Click again. Yes. So this is, we're going to talk about just a few innovations that have come about during COVID. And this is, they call it the glass houses. In Amsterdam, just like here in the United States and all over, people were saying, you know what, we understand, we got to stay safe because of, you know, COVID-19, but we want to get out and we want to interact with our friends and our family. So what a lot of the restaurants did is they constructed these glass houses, and so that people could dine inside the glass houses and still be safe and social distance. Click one more, please. This is, as you know, everybody is required to wear masks. Okay, wherever you go, everyone must wear a mask to mitigate the spread of the virus, and rightfully so. However, there's a segment of our population, the deaf population, said, we understand, oh, could you go back? We understand that, but many in our community read lips, and if we have to wear a mask, they can't read lips. So someone was innovative and said, well, let's cut out the mouthpiece in it so that and put plastic over it so that those in the deaf community can still function even during COVID, and they can still communicate by reading lips. The next one, please, next slide. This is my favorite. As I said in the beginning, I am a huge basketball fan. And so right now I am living my best life because we're into the finals, okay, in basketball. But one of the things that the NBA did, which I think is fascinating, is that they said, okay, we're going to have a season, but we're not going to have any fans. And many of the players said, well, we're not going to play without fans. So the NBA worked with Microsoft and they came up with what's called the virtual fan experience, where the fans of the teams that are playing, they submit and enter a lottery so that they can be there virtually. And so it looks like they're sitting in the seats and they wave their hands and, you know, they still pipe in some noise and everything, but they still get to be courtside and enjoy their team. Next slide, please. Being creative is imperative for any organization that's going to be successful. And as senior leaders, you are the ones that set that environment for creativity for your workforce, because your workforce is going to carry out the work of the organization. Not just carry out the work of the organization, but to exceed customer and stakeholder expectations. And to do that, you want your workforce, just like you, to come to work every day ready to do their best, ready to strive for their potential. Because organizations that have that foster an environment of creativity are organizations that have developed hardworking and a workforce that is willing to think outside of the box and not be satisfied with the status quo. So successful organizations, role model organizations, they challenge their workforce. They challenge, leaders challenge themselves to see not just what the best practices are, but the next practices. And in order to do that, you have to be creative and always strive for your best and strive to be, to work within your potential. Now, working within your potential is something that is, you know, you'll never be your very, very best because you're always striving for, it's kind of like striving for excellence. We will never be excellent, but we're on that path. It's a journey. So working and striving for your potential is a journey. Next slide, please. So here's a couple of things. All right, so if you would, in the chat, would you type for me, what are these two objects? In the chat, if you could type, what is the one on the left and what is the one on the right? Okay, we got a pan, we have a box, that's right. We've got a pan or a skillet and we have a box. Now, that's what we see. But a creative mind will say, yeah, but that box could also be a cave. That box could also be a helicopter. A box could also be a hiding place, something to store in. So it could be anything. A skillet, if you put it in a child's hand or you ask a child what either one of these things are, it could be a hat. It could be a drum. It could be something that they would sit in. So do you see where I'm going? So when you're creative, you have to not just look at things as they currently are, but you have to look at the potential of what might be. Next slide, please. Okay, so Many of you will be saying, well, Jackie, you know, all this creative stuff you're talking about is great, but I'm a left brain kind of person. I like logic and numbers and analytical thinking. That is where I'm comfortable. And so I'm a left brain person. I mean, I don't deal in that other side. Next, click, please. Right brain. And you know what? I'm a right brain person. All right. I like being imaginative and expressive. This is where my creative juices come from. And that is where I live. That is what I love. But I'm here to tell you, next slide, please. But I'm here to tell you, you are neither left brain nor right brain because you use your entire brain all of the time, even when you're sleeping. So those of you that like logic and math and numbers and, you know, and reasoning and those sorts of things, you are using your right side of the brain, but you just aren't using it as much. And just like those of you that are right, that say that you're right, you use your right side of the brain. You are, and you're doing that, but you're also using your left side of the brain because within the brain, 24 hours a day, even when you are asleep, there are neurons, okay, that are passing through every part of your brain. And the brain, think of it as a muscle. If you're more of an analytical thinker, you may want to exercise your brain by doing some things that are more creative. And if you are a more creative person, you may want to engage in some activities that require more logic and analytical thinking. So one of the things that you will need to do is retrain your brain. Next slide, please. Yes, you'll need to retrain your brain because you see, we respond to things based on past experiences. That's how your brain operates. So whenever you are posed with a question or a situation, your brain already knows how to respond based on past experience. And there's what this is called is emotional style. And your emotional style is how you react to situations. But your emotional style can be changed. You see, one of the things about your brain is that it's always looking to do new things. So one exercise, a brief exercise that you can do to change your emotional style or to retrain your brain is the next time that you are posed with a question or a dilemma or a situation, instead of automatically answering, pause. You see, there's power in the pause. When you pause, it tells your brain, oh, wait a minute, this is new. We usually don't respond like this. But then when you pause, you have an opportunity to take control of the situation instead of the situation taking control of you, and it gives you an opportunity to think more clearly. So try retraining your brain. My first experience with this is with my exercise, my acupuncturist told me to do. And what she told me to do was, I told her that I was having trouble sleeping at night. And so, because I just kept thinking over and over and over about, okay, I got to do this tomorrow, I got to do that tomorrow, this happened today. But when I would go to bed, I just couldn't kind of turn it off, if you will. So she told me to try this exercise. She said, Jackie, the next time you're in bed and you can't sleep, she said, take a deep breath, hold it for 7 seconds, and then breathe out for 7 seconds. And do this 3 times. She said, because you have to retrain your brain that it's time to go to sleep. So I tried it, and it took me a while. It took me a while to get used to it, but I did try it. So the first time I did it, she said, it's like your brain goes, oh, wait, something's going on, something's happening. So then I did it the second time, and she said, and then your brain says, oh, it's time to sleep. And then the third time, it's like, okay, let's shut it down. So I give you that. That's the price of admission for you. So if you want to try that, you can. But it is important that you retrain your brain to reach your next level of being. Next slide, please. Your hands. All right. These are the two most important and effective tools you have to retrain your brain. Yes, your hands. You see, when we are doing things, okay, if you ever had writer's block, or you have a report that you have to do, or there is a plan, or you're in a committee and you just can't get your thoughts together, the best thing to do is to back away from your computer and don't type. Because see, when we type and we're at our laptop, we're typing, an email comes through, and then we're paying attention to the email. You get on social media. Some of us answer our phones through our laptops, and you're doing all of these things, and your brain cannot focus. So the next time you have writer's block, move away from your computer, do something that many people don't do much these days, and that is put pen to paper and begin to write. Even if it's random thoughts, just begin to write. Because what happens, the neuroscience tells us that when we write, there are neurons that lead that, or sensors that go from your hands through your arms to your brain, telling your brain to focus on this one thing. Because when your brain focuses on the one thing, it gives it an opportunity to come up with new ideas, ways of thinking, solutions to dilemmas and problems or challenges. So any activity that you do with your hands will help you with this. So whether it's writing, or if you get writer's block, garden, paint, a lot of people might be a mechanic. Anything with your hands will spur the creative juices. Next slide, please. So here, we're gonna talk about some potential busters. Yes, potential busters. We're gonna talk about 3. And the first one we're gonna talk about today is fear. That's right, that dreaded F word, fear. You see, fear has sabotaged the careers and the lives of millions of people. And we can talk about fear, that's a whole nother presentation. But we're not gonna spend that much time on it. But fear, we do need to talk about, because we give fear more power than it actually has. Because actually, fear is really a coward. Because we are the ones who give fear how the influence that it has over us, the impact that it has over us. But one way to get over that fear so that you can move out of your current state into your new state is to call it out. Say what that fear is. So either write it down, say it aloud, but say whatever that fear is. Because when you recognize your fear, you lessen that impact that it has, that power that it has over you. And instead of that fear being a wall that you can't go over, it now becomes maybe a hurdle. And the good thing about hurdles is that you can jump over hurdles, or you can walk around them to get to where you need to be. Next slide, please. Click one more, please. So one of my fellow speaker friends, her name is Robin Hatcher, and she has one of the best acronyms for fear that I have heard, and it is the failure to envision an alternate reality. Because what fear does is it wants to keep you in your comfort zone. It wants to keep you where you are. Okay, it doesn't want you to grow. It doesn't want you to reach your better self. It doesn't want you to stretch and challenge yourself. It wants you to be comfortable. It wants you to stay here and look at the world through a glass. But the alternate state is what you create. Next slide, please. Another potential buster, and that is comparison. That's right, comparisons. Now, comparisons aren't always a bad thing, Okay, so I think it's healthy to compare ourselves or our businesses to others because it helps us to understand and to see how well we are doing in certain situations or how your business is doing in a certain situation, those like businesses or like-minded people like yourself. But oftentimes when we compare, we, particularly with ourselves, when we're looking to become better or moving forward, is that we compare ourselves to another person, but it's not equal. We compare ourselves like apples to oranges instead of apples to apples or oranges to oranges. Because when we usually compare ourselves to people, we see them at this higher level. And we might not be at that level yet. And so we get discouraged. And when you compare yourself and you see people at their higher level and you get discouraged, it slows down or sometimes even prevents you from striving toward your potential and acting out your creativity. And also when you are looking at other people, you are taking your eye off of your goals and looking at their goals. And you can't get to where you need to be unless you obtain your goals. So comparison can be healthy, but it can be dangerous. But so the next time you're looking at someone and you're comparing yourself, make sure you're looking at apples to apples or oranges to oranges. Because when we see just the good, we're not seeing how that person got to that level. I heard someone once say, we see their glory, but we don't know their story. You see, we see the glory of, oh, Oprah is a philanthropist. Oh, you know, this person is wealthy or this business is doing well. But what we don't see is the rejection, the failures that they had to deal with, the tears, the hard work, the doors that slammed in their faces. And so when those things happen, and when we see Oprah and all those other people, those famous people that everybody knows, just know they're not very different from you. They had to start somewhere. They had the same rejections and fears that you did. And some of them still do. Click, please. Self-doubt. Now, this is a tough one. This is a potential buster that's very difficult and everyone deals with it. And what makes self-doubt so difficult to deal with is because it's a learned behavior. Self-doubt is our own personal bully. That's exactly what it is. It's a bully. Because what it does, it sits back, okay? You get gung-ho to do something. And you say, I'm going to start this new venture. I'm going to write this book. I'm going to do this new innovation. And you're gung-ho and you're going and you're excited and you're encouraged. And then self-doubt raises her head and says, are you sure you're qualified to do this? Or you may have a setback and self-doubt says, see, told you shouldn't have done it. But the thing about self-doubt is that it can be controlled. Because when self-doubt comes about, instead of, when it says, you know what, you're going to fail. What'll happen when you fail? You can always speak back to it and say, well, what happens if I'm a success? So self-doubt is something that you can control. All of us deal with it. A friend of mine she gave her self-doubt a name. She calls it Agnes. And she goes, Jackie, Agnes tried to show up today and I just told her, not today. She said, not today, Agnes. And so if you want to name your self-doubt, go right ahead. But these are the potential busters that always prevent people or can prevent you from becoming your best self. And the thing about being your best self is that it takes courage. It takes courage to be your best self because like fear, you want to be comfortable. You want to stay within what you know, okay? Around the people that encourage you, that aren't going to challenge you. But potential means that you have to be courageous enough to reach out and venture out on that unknown, to be okay with making those mistakes and learn from those mistakes, brush yourself off and keep going. Next slide, please. This is just a quote from one of my favorite people, Brene Brown. Some of you may have heard about her. She is a vulnerability expert, and I have this posted in my office. It says, you can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you can't have both. And I love that. I just post that all the time. Wanted to share that with you. Next slide, please. This is my sister, Linda. And my sister, Linda, has had many disappointing and challenging things that happened in her life. And one that I'd like to share with you today is when she got divorced. Linda got divorced and she found herself with 3 young children that she needed to support, no job, and she had to move into public housing. This was a world that Linda was not familiar with, because in public housing, few people held a steady job, nobody owned their own home, and it wasn't as safe as she wanted it to be for her children. But this was where she ended up. And so she had to make the best of her situation. Because Linda, we came from a house with 2 parents who loved us. They were entrepreneurs, had successful businesses. We went to good schools, lived in a safe neighborhood, and everything that she was now encountering was just opposite all of that. But Linda always strived to do better. She always wanted to reach her better self and to strive for her potential. So she heard of a class that she could take to get a secretarial certificate. It was a 10-month program, and she made up her mind that she was going to do it. But there were just a few challenges. One, it was 10 months. The class was held 3 hours away, and it met on the weekends. So Linda had to think about, how am I going to do this? I have to do this. So she asked some people that she trusted, would they watch her children on the weekends? And many of them said, you know what, Linda, love to, but I can't. And then she said, well, how am I going to pay, to get there? How am I going to pay for gas in the car? And then she figured that out too. And so she began selling dinners out of her home so that she would get enough gas money each week so that she could go 3 hours to and 3 hours back home. But she still didn't have anybody to watch her children. There was a lady in the neighborhood, Miss Mary. One day, Miss Mary knocked on her door. And Linda said, well, hello, Miss Mary, how can I help you? And Miss Mary said, Linda, I hear that you want to go to school, but you need somebody to watch your kids. And Miss Mary had a daycare. And Linda said, but Miss Mary, I can't afford to pay you. That's why I didn't come to you. I can't afford to pay you to watch my kids. And Miss Mary told her, Linda, I see something in you. She said, I will watch your kids for free as long as you don't quit. So Linda's challenges were solved. She sold enough dinners for gas money. She had someone to watch her children, and she took the course for 10 months. So for 10 months, she went back and forth selling her dinners. And during the week, she would study for the next session and do that. And while this is going on, her friends, or the people she thought were her friends, weren't very supportive. They said, well, why are you doing that? Nobody ever leaves this place. Do you think you're better than we are? You are wasting your time. But Linda didn't let her self-doubt or her fear get in the way. After 10 months, she got her certificate. Shortly after that, she got a job. She saved up enough money, moved her and her children out of the housing project into a safer neighborhood. And because Linda, when she got on her job, she would ask questions, and she was a go-getter, and she got promotion after promotion. And then she said, you know what, I want my own. So Linda started her own business. She's an entrepreneur, a very successful entrepreneur. And so she overcame. And because she wanted to do more. She knew within herself she had the potential to do more. And most recently, she became ordained as a minister. Next slide, please. So as you're progressing toward your potential, you are making progress. And this graphic was shared with me about 20 years ago by Bishop Kenneth Ulmer from Los Angeles. And it is so true. This is next to my quote from Brene Brown. And this is the graphic for progress. And it says, when you're progressing, when you are striving for your potential, you grow. Because healthy things grow. And when you grow, you change. And when you change, things begin to happen. You begin to think different, act different, be different, see things different. Just like the box and the frying pan. The box is no longer a box, and the frying pan is no longer a frying pan because you are changing the way that you think. And when you change, you get challenged. And when you get challenged, you have to now think outside the box. I like to say destroy the box. You have to think of new ways of doing things. You have to look beyond those challenges to come up with solutions. And when you're challenged, you begin to trust yourself more. And you begin to trust the process that you're going through. And when you trust yourself, you become obedient to the new person that you are becoming. Because healthy things grow. And it's just a cycle that goes around and around. But the one thing I really want to stress to you is look in the middle of what happens. The challenges. Challenges will always come in the middle of your growth. And the middle is always messy. The middle is the time where self-doubt, that fear, and comparison are really going to come in and really try to influence you. Because when you're in the middle, you can't go back because you weren't satisfied there, and you won't be. But then when you're in the middle, you don't know what the future holds, and so there's some apprehension. But I challenge you today to move forward, press on, because it might be messy in the middle, but believe me, you are growing. Next slide, please. So here's some techniques to unlock the power of your potential. They are to act, be, seek, celebrate, and align. So for act, it's act bigger than you are. That's right. Act bigger than you are. Take on that new venture. Take on that assignment that you don't think you're qualified to do, or that others don't think you're qualified to do. So act bigger than you are. Speak up in the meetings that you attend. Share your ideas. Let folks know your way of thinking. And then be curious. Ask questions. Because out of the questions come new solutions. Ask the questions, why do we have to do this? Have we ever thought of doing it this way? Who did this previously? What was the outcome? Do you think that we might be able to do it in a shorter period of time? Ask questions, be curious. The most curious beings are children. Now, I don't know if any of you have children, but we've all been a child. And if you remember back, asking questions is how we learn. Being curious, finding out how things work, breaking it apart and putting it back together again. Next is seek feedback. And this is really important because if you want to know how well you're doing, you need to ask others that you trust for feedback. Not everyone is going to give you the type of feedback you want to hear. And that's a good thing. Because if everyone tells you what you want to hear, you really won't be growing. Those people that are honest will tell you exactly how you're doing. So when you're getting feedback, seek out people that don't necessarily look like you. They may be in positions higher than you or positions lower than you. You want to hear it all. Take the feedback that will best help you and move forward with it. I have what I call my board of directors who give me feedback all the time. They're a set of people that I trust. They are women, they are men, they come from different backgrounds, different sectors. And so I ask feedback of them all the time. And sometimes the feedback's a little hard to take, but I know that I trust them enough that they are telling me the truth to help me to grow. The next is celebrate. And this is something we don't do much. Celebrate your victories, even the smallest victory, okay? So if you meet a milestone, celebrate it. Celebrate yourself. Tell yourself, give yourself a pat on the back and say, that's right, I did a great job. And next is to align your why. And that basically is aligning your purpose. Align your potential with your purpose and who you are. Next slide, please. Now, if you look at this, it may look like a bowl of spaghetti noodles, and yes, it is. But this bowl of spaghetti noodles actually also depicts the way my life used to be. You see, I was running around here and there with no purpose and seemingly no purpose, not knowing what I was supposed to do, what direction I should be going in. And I was very unhappy and unsatisfied. And on one of the occasions, I had hit rock bottom. I was living well beyond my means. I had a little 1983 Nissan Sentra with no air conditioner and no radio. I had very little money. I had just enough money just to make it. I took public transportation to work, but I could only afford one-way bus fare. And I befriended the bus driver on the way home, and he would let me ride for free. In my refrigerator, I had a pack of hot dogs, a bottle of ketchup, and a loaf of bread. That's it. And I was just so unhappy and unsatisfied because I didn't know what I was supposed to be or be doing. And so one day I'm riding along in my car, and I'm a person of faith, and I grew up in a Christian household. And I'm riding in my car, and I'm like, God, I know this is not what you would have me to do. I am broke. I'm eating hot dogs and bread and ketchup. And I got a rundown car with no air conditioner and no radio. I know that there is something more that I'm supposed to be doing. And just like that, something happened. It was said, well, what are you supposed to be doing? Have you ever, it was like, Jackie, what are you supposed to be doing? It was like I had this aha where I challenged myself. And I said, look at what you're supposed to be doing. Think about those things you do well. Think about those things you like to do. And so within that aha moment, I now had something other than my loaf of bread, my broke down car, my bottle of ketchup, and my hot dogs. I had hope. And hope helped me find my purpose and what I was supposed to do. And so I knew that I liked to talk. I knew that I liked to help people fix problems. And so through a lot of training and a lot of hard work, I found a job where I could use my skills and get an extension of that and create my own business. And that's what got me here with you today. So hope helped me identify my purpose. Next slide, please. So a few resources as we wrap up. One is called The Artist Way. It is a book by Julia Cameron. She comes out of the movie industry, and it's an awesome book because she talks about overcoming self-doubt and really reaching for your potential. And she uses a lot of examples in the movie industry, and it's a fabulous read, and it's very engaging. The next is a book called The Discipline of Now by Eric Twiggs. Eric is a procrastination expert, and in his book, he talks about how procrastination can keep you from becoming your best self and how to overcome procrastination. And the next book is one that I'm sure you've heard about. It's called Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. And Shonda is the executive producer and creator of the shows like Grey's Anatomy and How to Get Away with Murder. And it is a fascinating read because she talks about how out of fear and self-doubt, even when she was famous, that she would turn down opportunities because of fear and self-doubt. And so she challenged herself for a year to say yes to every opportunity. Next slide, please. So I hope something has been shared today that will help you to stretch beyond your current self, that will help you to move to the next level so that you can work at your fullest potential and also have your workforce and your community benefit from all of that. So at this time, I'm going to turn it back over to our facilitator and hopefully we'll have some questions and answers.
Thank you, Jackie. It was wonderful. It was really wonderful. And, you know, the real-time lifetime stories, you know, they give so much energy and then so much, you know, power to our thoughts. You know, it's wonderful. You know, it's very, very fascinating to, you know, go through this seminar. Really wonderful. Jackie, thank you to be here. I will open up for questions now. Anybody who wants to ask questions, please raise your hand in the participants panel, and I will call on your name and you can unmute yourself and you know, pose the question. There's a lot of commentary here, Jackie, in the chat saying that, you know, it was amazingly inspiring. It's wonderful. Thank you, Jackie, for the time to share your experiences and insights. Very inspirational. So motivating. Thanks a lot, Jackie. So everybody is very much, you know, excited to. I'm sure, you know, this is going to give everybody that energy, you know, the little bit of self-doubt that they would have in their own abilities and potential. This will clear some things up for everyone. So it's really wonderful, you know, to go through.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
We could say it's a lifetime of experiences. You kind of, you know, collapsed everything into 1 hour, you know, talk and then brought it to us. Really helpful. So I still, I'm looking for any questions from anybody while we have Jackie here. Who can take, you know, 2 or 3, 4 questions?
One thing I would really take away and put it into practice from your talk is, you know, when you have a writer's block kind of situation, to move away from.
Yes.
Plan out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the neuroscience shows that anytime the brain can focus on one thing, and that's primarily with your hands. And, you know, we get so busy now, nobody really writes much anymore. We all type. You know, so putting the pen to paper really does work. In the one book that the reference, The Artist Way, that I listed, Julia Cameron, she has what she calls having people write what they call morning pages, where she challenges people to really journal, is what it is, and not to type it, but to write it. Because when you write it again, it helps you to spur your creative juices, and you start out just writing random things that don't even make sense, or so you don't think they make sense. You know, you're like, okay, I got to drop the kids off. Oh, the dog needs fed. I got to pick this up at the grocery store. And then you end up with these thoughts, these creative thoughts that come, and you find later when you go back and you read your morning pages that you've got these awesome thoughts and, you know, this innovative way of thinking and doing things. So, so yeah, using your hands, you know, and it doesn't cost any money. You use your hands or just pen to paper.
Wonderful, Jackie. Wonderful. Thank you. Anyone else? Please unmute yourself if anybody is speaking. Okay. So I don't see anybody, you know, asking any questions, Jackie, but it's really wonderful to have you here, you know, inspire our leadership at the Rotary Club of Silicon Andhra. So, so many great things that we learned today. So wonderful. And I want to take this opportunity to thank Dushyant Garu and Srini Tonda Garu for bringing you here today as part of our vocational services charter. So thank you. Dushyant Garu, you want to add anything, sir?
Thank you, Jackie. This is very inspiring and amazing experience for us, especially to hear both your story as well as your sister's story. It's very touching. Thank you very much for sharing and helping us to see things how we can see differently. Thank you.
And I was going to add, is there a way we can, like, do you have any other like webinars, or do you have like an Instagram or Facebook page? Loved your talk and very inspiring. So would love to see more resources from you.
I can be reached. I am on Twitter and Facebook and what's the other one? Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And so, yeah, and so I have some things about my different programs that are out there. If you are interested in receiving some information, or you have, some questions about whether it's this talk or things about your workforce, please send me an email or something, or a message, and I'll be more than happy to share some information with you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Look forward to keeping in touch.
Thank you, Anusha, for that question. So Jackie, wonderful. I know it's a Sunday evening for you in Washington, D.C., and taking an hour away from your, busy life, for our Rotary Club. Really appreciate your help. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Thank you, and have a great evening, everybody. I hope to hear from you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, see you, Jackie. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Yeah,
Bye.
bye.